recording. Okay. All right. So this is our lecture 3, and the topic for today's lecture is on gender identity and sexuality. All right. Now, first of all, there may be some terms and all that which may be a little bit sensitive dan sebagainya, but I try not to try to be very careful, yeah, with that. But sometimes it's difficult to do so as well, yeah. Yeah, so just follow. Just go ahead with this, yeah. Kalau ada yang terasa offended dan sebagainya, my apologies, yeah, as we go along. Okay, all right. So let me share the screen for today's lecture. All right. Saya harap boleh nampak ya?
Nampak, Prof.
Okay.
Boleh.
Boleh.
So the
Boleh.
lecture is on gender identity and sexuality. Okay, basically itulah. Gender tu, I think I have explained the meaning. It is a social construction. In other words, it's how people think about themselves. Yeah, what role, particularly in terms of the role associated with if you are male or female. Yeah, dan juga in terms of gender ini, ianya gender role particularly, ya, ataupun gender ideology itu mungkin berubah mengikut culture, mengikut budaya, ya, tempat masing-masing. Ya, sebagai contoh, Western culture, they may have a different ways of looking at gender, dan Eastern culture ataupun Middle East culture may have a different ways of looking at gender as well. And then also gender identity itu, we will look at how people identify themselves, yeah, male, female, of course, but more than that is, my apologies, spelling the double typing. Okay, that's identity and sexuality, right? How do you identify yourself? You're going to be, you identify yourself as male, female, or maybe in between, yeah. And then the last one is sexuality. This has to do with something like sexual preference ataupun orientation dan sebagainya. Okay, jadi that's what we'll be looking at today, yeah. So let me start the presentation. All right, so gender identity and sexuality. Now, recap, just to recap what we have done before. We look at sexual differentiation, and also, I mean, talking about sex, gender previously, sex being biological rather than social construction. Yeah. Then we look at sexual differentiation, perspective of gender inequality, and also gender social construction. And I will probably cover some of this topic also in today's lecture. Agak susah sikit lah to structure properly, but when you discuss on sexuality, for example, you can't escape from talking about gender and also culture as well. Okay, so all right, sex and gender, biological differentiates the sexes, society differentiates male and female roles, and gender roles ascribed to men and women also vary greatly from culture to culture. Okay, so gender roles across culture, in every culture or society, there are ascribed or prescribed roles, yeah, with regard to males or female, and also women are expected to focus on child raising, and then men also to have more power and so on. Yeah, or male children are valued more than female children in certain culture. Okay, jadi so that's so we will, as I said, we may come across these terms dan juga topik-topik ini as we go along, yeah, later on. Okay, so gender, yeah, gender is continuously learn and relearn, yeah. Illustrate the importance of the concept itself of social reproduction. And I would, it depends who we are, when, you know, people talking about it in which country and so on. Yeah. So we socially reproduce. Yeah. We make and remake gender in 1,000 minor actions in the course of a day. Jadi macam-macam, yeah, as we talk about issue of gender. For example, the way we carry ourselves, yeah, the way we sit, the way we laugh, the way we talk, eat, and drink. Remember, we talked about this also last time we met, yeah. So in other words, gender as a social institution is created and recreated. In other words, it's all very dynamic, like in a way, yeah. Created and recreated in our interactions with others. So in other words, we perform gender every day. Okay. Right. So let me go to some specific cases or example. There are people who transform themselves from one gender to another. One of the first person to do so is by the name of James, yeah. But later on, she was known as Jane, yeah. Morris family name tu masih kekal lah, right? So this is a case of transgender. In other words, a person transform his or her gender, yeah, from one original gender to another. In this case, it's from male to female. So James Morris, later on, after undergoing transformation, yeah, to her body and all that, she was called Jen, also was known as Jen Morris. Okay, so this is a good example of apa namanya, sex change, yeah, to become a woman, yeah. So the person by the name of James Morris bertukar jadi Jane Morris, yeah. So James was indeed a very manly person or manly man. Ya, memang seorang lelaki, dan not only that, but he was really a real man and not, bukan orang yang lembut lah, ya. Not a soft sissy as most people would imagine. So he was really man, muscular and so on. Yeah, he is very strong. Yeah, as characteristics of male, yeah, person. And when he was born, his name was James Humphrey. Yeah, James Humphrey Morris, and he was born in Somerset. I think it's in Scotland or England, I forgot. Yeah, sorry, Wales, yeah, in UK. So his father was Wales, itu from negara Wales lah, and mother being English, yeah, from England. So I'm sorry about that. It's the wrong color to use. Yeah. I hope you can see. So with a Welsh father and English mother, so Morris remembered questioning her gender by the age of 4. Jadi pada umur 4 tahun dia sudah more or less trying to question, yeah, at that time his gender lah, and then later on in her book, yeah, talking about how she questioned her gender. Yeah. So Morris, actually, as I said, he's a man or real man, married. Yeah, married his friend Elizabeth, name Elizabeth Tucknish in 1949, and they had 5 children together. Jadi ada 5 orang anak, ya, through his then, ya, James marriage to Elizabeth. Okay? And she was also, I mean, the story is based on what is happening when she had turned or dah tukar gender lah. So she was a racing driver, active in many sports, yet she always felt herself to be a woman in a male body. So she eventually underwent sex change, ya, perubahan, pertukaran sex through sex operation, sex change operations, and from then on, she has been living as a woman. And by the way, she died quite recently. Yeah. So in 1972, she completed hormones therapy with surgery. So jadi female hormone lah, in other words. Yeah. That's when she completed the operation. And now his name ditukar, since he's now a woman, becomes Jan Morris. Was a member of the British expedition led by Sir Edmund Hillary, who successfully climbed Mount Everest. So she's a very strong person. So Jan is also a celebrated travel writer, and she provided interesting insight as to how to do gender every day. Yeah. So that's him. Yeah. So this is him when he was young, belum pertukaran lah. Yeah. And this is later. Yeah. And this is much older on this side. Right? So if you want to read more about Jan Morris, you can click on this link here, right? On this link here. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. So in other words, ada perubahan di sini, ya, perubahan from male to female, ya, from in terms of gender tadi, ya, a man, but always feel that she's a woman, yeah, even though he got married to his wife or to his girlfriend, yeah, in his early years. Okay, so according to Morris, in her book autobiography, the title of the book is Conundrum. So kata, if we are expected to behave a certain way, we do. Yeah, for example, as a man, no box is too heavy, but as a woman, she was not expected to carry it, so it became too heavy. Jadi itu banyak bergantung kepada persepsi dan juga expectation. So the same box, if you're a man, you can carry the box. But if you're a woman, that thing will be too heavy, yeah, for lady. Kata dalam buku dia lah. That's what she says. So similarly, dia kata, with opening a bottle, if it is thought that a woman can't do it, tak boleh buatnya, she found that she can. Yeah, although she could the last time he was a man. Jadi itu perubahan daripada man to woman tadi. Ya, so as a man, he was treated respectfully in restaurant, and as a woman, she was treated as frivolous. Jadi the way people treat the same person as a man and as a woman were different according to her experience, yeah, that she wrote in the book. So all this is a unique perspective in a way, yeah, because she has experienced life both as a man and also a woman, and therefore she could describe, yeah, the difference between man and woman. Yeah, right. So that's quite unique. Yeah. Now the other person, sorry, this is the cover page of the book, right? Then this is a famous quotation lah. Dia kata, to me, gender is not physical at all, not physical at all, but it is altogether insubstantial. It is the soul, perhaps also it is talent, it is the taste, or it is the environment, or it is how one feels, rather. Yeah, it is light and shade. It is inner music. So that's the how she described, yeah, gender. So it can actually, so very much depend on how you feel about it, rather than physically you are man or women. Yeah. Okay, so in her case, it goes to the extreme sampai bertukar, ya, sampai bertukar gender, right? What is that inside there? Something. Okay, all right. So that's for Jan Morris. The other person, which many of you may know already, is known previously known as Bruce Jenner. Bruce was an Olympian, right? He won gold for the event decathlon in 1976 Summer Olympics, right? But things changed later on. He got married to 3 different wives, yeah. Anyway, so let me read this one. After much recent speculation, Jenner, 65, stated publicly for the first time in an interview in 2015 that he's always been very confused with his gender identity, right? So dia kata, God gave me the soul of female, right? But the body of a male, more or less, that's what I'm saying. So let me look at it. This is what he was as a athlete, Olympian, and then he got married to his first wife. I'll tell you later siapa nama dia. And then later on, when he divorced his first wife, he remarried to a second wife, not shown here. Then later on, also divorced his second wife, and then later on married to the Kardashian family. You know that kan TV show, ya. Kardashian, Kris Jenner namanya, tapi mak kepada these few ladies lah, right? So then he got married, but after some time, he decided, and that is after, umur 60 lebih, she decided to do it. Yeah, she decided to do it. Tukar kepada perempuan. From there, young man got married, and then eventually living as a woman. Itu cerita Bruce Jenner lah. Okay, so his first wife, this is what is happening. An actress. His first wife was an actress, by the way, ya, seorang pelakon. But when she was 69, she said she remembered how marriage was like when she was married to Bruce lah, now Kathleen. Said that Bruce admitted he wanted to be a woman during the first year of their marriage in 1972. Ada masa itu dia memang dah ada hasrat ya untuk mengubah ya dirinya ataupun hendak menjadi seorang perempuan. So the wife said that the only Olympic athlete who was her husband and known as Bruce Jenner described being a female as a fantasy. Ya, itu merupakan satu fantasi dia. Ya, and at the time masa itu he had no plan to act on his desire. Jadi tak ada lah. Belum lagi apa nama to achieve his desire to be a female, but it's there already. Ya, dia ada sebutkan admitted to his wife that apa nama he wanted to be a woman. Okay, after the Olympic event lah. And then his second wife by the name Linda Thompson. Okay. So according to Linda, yeah, she also knew of her ataupun Kathleen lah, formerly Bruce, yeah, desire to become a woman in the 1980s. So both wives knew about that, yeah, that Bruce or rather Kathleen ini memang hendak mengubah dirinya daripada lelaki kepada perempuan, yeah. So finally he became, of course, transgender in 2015. Okay, and then so those are the transition for Kathleen Jenner from the days when he was an athlete, a very strong young man, but deep inside dia rasa dia tu ingin menjadi seorang perempuan. Kris Jenner, however, the wife, the recent apa nama yang paling the third wife, sorry, ya. By the way, these are pictures of it, and this is his wife, and this is him, but transgendered to become a woman, and this is his former wife, right? That's him, or her rather. My apologies, her. Yeah. So Kris Jenner, his third wife, says she was not aware of the extent of her spouse's gender issues. Jadi, so Bruce seperti juga dengan James tadi mempunyai gender issue. Ya, the identity dia lebih kepada perempuan daripada lelaki. Tapi initially both Bruce dengan James were married and they have children. Yeah, they do have children before they perform the transgender. Yeah. Okay. Some more pictures you can see here. If you Google, you can find all these pictures regarding apa nama? In this case, Kathleen Jenner. Okay. So let me move on from there. Yeah. Alright, so itu berkaitan dengan gender issue tadi, ya. That some people, so in other words, it's how you feel, ya, rather than your physical, being yang menentukan siapa kamu sebagai seorang, ya, sama ada perempuan ataupun lelaki. Ya. So let's look at the issue of biology and sexual behavior. The next topic, yeah. Some biologists argue that there is an evolutionary explanation as to why men tend to be more sexually promiscuous, ataupun dalam bahasanya, melakukan seks rambang dan sebagainya, more than women. My apologies when I discuss this. It may be sensitive. It may be tak apa sesuai. You let me know if I'm going too far. Yeah? So ini biologists, they study animals and all that. Yeah? Jadi so they look at sexual behavior of men and women. So the argument is that men are biologically disposed to impregnating. This has to do with untuk melahirkan anak, menambahkan populasi, right? Impregnating as many women as possible in order to ensure that their seed has the greatest chance of survival. Nah, itu argument mengapa, to explain why men were promiscuous, more sexually promiscuous than women. Right? It's a teori mereka lah. So women, on the other hand, have only one egg that can be fertilized and therefore have no such biological interest compared to men. So instead, women want a stable partners to protect their children. Okay, itu mengikut teori ya mereka lah. The explanation regarding that issue tadi ya. So the argument here is supported by several studies yang menunjukkan or which claim to show that male animals, jadi mereka menggunakan apa nama tu binatang ya, animals to more or less explain why men ya juga a human being juga melakukan perkara yang seperti itu ya. So the studies which claim to show that male animals are normally more promiscuous than females of the same species. Yeah. Okay. So they explain the sexual behavior of men and women. However, recent studies show that female infidelity, you know the word infidelity, maybe having an affair with another person and so on, ya, ini perempuan, is actually quite common juga in the animal kingdom, and the sexual behavior of many animals are more complex than what was thought. So it's not just male, but also female, yeah. So it was once believed that females mated with males that had the highest potential for superior genetic inheritance for their offspring, yaitu biological explanation ya, yang mengatakan females if they do match with more than one male, the reason for that is that they can have a highest potential for superior genetic inheritance untuk anak-anak yang dilahirkan ya. But a recent study of female birds, however, dispute this argument. Ya, satu kajian melibatkan burung ya, as animal, dispute this argument tadi. Ya, jadi female birds, for example, takes extra mating partner, not for its genes, but because it may be a better parent and offer a better home territory for raising offspring. Jadi maksudnya at least for birds lah ya, birds ya, dengan apa nama tu burung tadi, they may have mated more than one partner, tetapi tujuannya untuk mendapat pelindungan ya, better parenting for the offspring ataupun anak-anak burung tersebut lah, or better home territory. Jadi itu dari segi animal, but that is for animals. So some theories are trying to explain human behavior juga dengan membandingkan dengan apa nama itu binatang lain. Okay, so females think their features and copulation is not merely the transfer of sperm. Jadi maksudnya perkara yang berlaku itu between female and male, yeah, it's not merely for the transfer sperm. Jadi ada for some other, unlike other animals, some other reasons, yeah, why females may have apa namanya sexual relationship with more than one man, for example, yeah. Okay, some of the influences as far as human is concerned on sexual behavior. For example, Alfred Kinsey, the name of researcher, began the research in the United States around the 1940s and 50s. And so it was the first time that a major investigation of actual sexual behavior, sorry, the spelling error here. Let me correct that first. Okay, let me continue. So Alfred Kinsey did a study on the actual sexual behaviors that had been undertaken, and his colleagues were condemned. Jadi kajian ini tidak direstui, ya, tidak dipersetujui oleh religious organization, for example, the churches and all that, yeah, and also these papers, yeah, the media also did not quite agree with the study itself because they think that is immoral, yeah, tidak moral, tidak bermoral, in other words, yeah, untuk menjalankan kajian tersebut untuk melihat sexual behaviors, yeah. So nevertheless, he persisted, yeah, and eventually obtained information from about 18,000 white Americans, yeah, to study their sexual behaviors. And his finding, very interesting, shocked many of us, or many, because they reveal a great difference between the public expectations of sexual behavior at that particular time, and actual sexual conduct. Jadi apa yang dijangka, apa yang dipikirkan, ya, adalah oleh orang awam adalah berbeza daripada yang didapati daripada kajian yang mereka buat, ya. So he found out, particularly I can say, plus his other friends lah, they found out that for men, 70% of them had visited a prostitute, and 84% had premarital sexual experience before marriage. Yeah, jadi itu, jadi you know, they don't talk about this openly in the media and so on, right? Of course, definitely wouldn't discuss in apa nama, dalam you know, in religious situation, by the way, yeah. Right, so this is what they found. Yeah, men visited prostitute at 70% of them, and 84% do have premarital sexual experience. Yeah, I mean before marriage. Untuk perempuan, for women, about 50% had premarital sexual experience, even though most of this are with their future husband. Ya, dengan suami mereka. But before the marriage lah. Okay, so that's the study on the sexual behavior yang dilakukan, ya. And yet 40% of men, this is just berkaitan dengan kenyataan yang tadi lah. Even though women had apa namanya, ataupun men had men and women, rather women had 50% had premarital sexual experience, and yet 40% of men expected their wives to be virgins at the time of marriage. Okay, itu berkenaan dengan the first one. So in 1960s, this is the time of the hippies, the anti-Vietnam War in America, this war movement. They preach sexual freedom. Yeah, the slogan mereka ada "Make love, not war," and this is in 1960s. So then the contraceptive pill was also invented for women, so which separate sexual activity from reproduction. Yeah, so traditionally, sexual activity was closely associated to reproduction, having offspring and children, but not anymore. Yeah, with the introduction of the contraceptives. Okay, so women's groups at that time rejected the double standard di antara lelaki dan perempuan of treatment tadi, yeah, and the need for women to achieve sexual satisfaction in their relationship as well. So they feel that there were there has been a double standard, yeah, between men and men. Yeah, so so they also feel that they should have that as well, yeah, to achieve sexual satisfaction in the relationship. And then moving on in the late 1980s, Lillian Rubin did a study and interviewed about 1,000 Americans between the age of 13 to 48 years old. And she found out that the sexual behavior and attitudes has changed over the last 30, 40 years since Kinsey's research study. Yeah, so Kinsey research was the first one to be conducted in 1940s, 1950s. But the behavior, sexual behavior and attitudes has changed. Yeah, jadi her findings. I mean, she found out that sexual activity starts at a younger age, right? From her study, and the double standard also between the men, women, in terms of the sexual behavior still exists, but not as powerful as before. In other words, both male and female, ataupun men and women, ya, apa nama ni, ada perbezaan sedikit in terms of their sexual behavior, but still less for women, in other words. So women also have come to expect more sexual pleasure in their relationships, right, with men or their partner lah. Okay, so that's the findings from Lillian Rubin about 40 years later, yeah, when she conducted the study. Perhaps Kinsey's punya research, the first one, maybe I think Alfred ni, maybe she has confined his apa nama respondent ataupun participant dia kepada mereka yang agak dewasa sikit, ya, in other words maybe around 20s, 30s and so on so forth, ya. But Lillian Rubin included apa nama girls who are American, sorry, between 13 to 48 years old, right? So that may explain the difference also. But interesting, whatever it is, there's some interesting finding with regard to the sexual behavior of men and women. Okay, so the sexual practices are also equally diverse amongst different cultures. Di antara budaya di dunia ini, ya. So, for example, Ceylon Ford and Frank Beach in 1951, they conducted an anthropological survey of more than 200 societies, yeah, in the world, and found great variation in what is regarded as normal or natural sexual behavior and norms of sexual attractiveness, yeah, who the person is attracted to. Okay, so different cultures, in other words, the sexual behavior is also influenced by the culture of the person, yeah. So sexual behavior, who people have sex with, and also the frequency in which they have sex varies enormously with different cultures, ya. Ada apa nama tu perbezaan, ya, differences. Some practices are outlawed in some societies. In other words, some of the practices ataupun sexual behavior tadi are not allowed in some societies, while the same practice may be legitimate ataupun is legitimate ataupun dibenarkan in other societies. I think some of these you may know, for example, homosexuality, yeah, for example, is not allowed in certain countries or certain culture, and while in the Western culture it is acceptable ataupun legitimate. Okay, so contohnya sodomy and homosexuality is one good example of how different culture look at it, atau how different culture whether it is accepted or not acceptable. So equally, what is considered sexually attractive for men and women also varies with different cultures. Jadi setengah culture tu mungkin what is attractive may not be attractive for men or women in different culture or different countries. Yeah, for example, in the West, ya in the West ini apa nama tu di negara Barat, a slim, small body is admired, while in other cultures, a more generous shape is regarded as most attractive. Okay, jadi um, so the size of the body, yeah, or shape of the body, how people perceive it, yeah, whether it is sexually attractive or not, yeah, both men and women are perceived differently, yeah, in different cultures. That's what I'm saying, yeah. So some societies place great store on the shape of the face, like a melon seed, while others emphasize the shape of phoenix eyes and color of the eyes or the size and shape of the nose. Yeah, contohnya this is the melon seed kind of face. Yeah, this is round, this is square. So so maybe some people prefer this. Yeah, as more attractive, while others may prefer or the shape of the eyes. Yeah, for example, phoenix eyes they call it. Yeah, and also the color of the eyes, or the size and shape of the nose and lips. Yeah, whether you have thin lips or thick lips. Those are, you know, viewed differently in different culture. Yeah, which one is attractive, which one is not attractive. Okay, so jadi that has to do with ataupun ada kaitannya dengan sexual behavior ataupun practices, or how a person is being attracted, or the attractions, yeah, associated with the physical features or the facial features of the person. Okay, any question, or should I continue?
Doctor, I have a question. The slide before this, what does the double standard mean in that context?
Okay, all right. The double standard di situ ialah, for example, men, for example, can have more than one, what do you call this, relationship, maybe, yeah. Men are allowed to have relationship with more than one woman, but women are not allowed. That's the kind of double standard they're talking about.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Okay, you're welcome. Right, tapi as you see later on, in some societies, particularly in the West, both men and women. So in other words, there is still a gap between men and women. Nah, dari situ mungkin ada, but women also maybe quite promiscuous as well. Yeah, having a relationship with more than one man, for example. Ya, nah, itu kata double standard tadi lah. Pada gap tu ataupun semakin berkurangan, itu yang dimaksudkan. Alright, any other question?
No, Prof.
Ada, okay. Alright. So move on. So now moving on to sexual identity. Sexual identity. Okay. So for most people, yeah, in all societies, most lah, I'm talking about most, are heterosexual. Yeah, and heterosexuality is the basis of marriage and family. That is between men and women, or male and female. Right. However, there are many minority sexual preferences as well. Yeah, as you can see, or I'll tell you more later on. Yeah. So that is the what was considered as, or still is considered as the norm. Yeah, heterosexual or heterosexuality. Right. But Judith Lauber, she listed or distinguishes as many as 10 different sexual identities. This is how you identify yourself lah, in terms of your sexual preference and all that. 10 different sexual identities amongst human beings. Okay, these are the list. Yeah, 1, you can be, if you're a woman, heterosexual women. In other words, women having a relationship with men, or if it is a man having only sexual relationship with women, then the man is described as heterosexual men, but both are heterosexual actually. Yeah. Then the third one is lesbian women. This is women who have a relationship with another woman. Yeah. Or gay men, a man who has a relationship with another sexual relationship with another excuse me, another man. Yeah. And or a bisexual women. Yeah, bisexual women. In other words, women have a relationship with men as well as with women. Or if he's a man, he has a preference for, sexual relationship with a man as well as women. Jadi itu, but actually you can group this under 3 broad categories: bisexual, homosexual, and heterosexual. But other than that, there are also another group called transvestite women. In other words, women who regularly dresses as a man. Yeah, regularly dresses as a man. And if it is a man who regularly dresses as a woman or cross dresses as a woman, is known as transvestite man. Okay, itu 8 dan 2 lagi. And then there is the 9 one is the transsexual women, a man who becomes a woman. Atau seperti yang tadilah, dengan Bruce Bruce to Kathleen, James to Jen tadi, ya, as example of transsexual women, ataupun transgender lah, dekatnya, ataupun transsexual man, a woman who becomes a man. Tapi ini ada, tapi jarang berlaku. Alright, so we do have, even in our society. Cumanya kadang-kadang undang-undang tidak membenarkan ataupun the religion tidak membenarkan seseorang itu bertukar. Okay, recent example is do you know kan siapa yang who has now migrated to Australia?
Yes, sir.
Tahu.
Tahu kan? Sajat. Yeah. Alright, so the example of a man. A man who becomes a woman, transsexual woman. Okay, jadi so these are just classification sebenarnya, klasifikasi of sexual preferences tadi lah. Right? Okay, so sexual realignment, another term, means using surgery and hormone treatment to change body shape. Contohnya the breast or hair distribution, ya. Contohnya perempuan jadi lelaki with kalau dulu tak ada beard, now with beards, ya, and lot of hairs on the face and so on, ya. And the internal organs such as wombs and chromosomes remain the same. Ya, benda ni tak boleh tukar lah. But shape of the body, ya, mungkin boleh berubah. So that is what is known as sexual realignment. Ya. So in many countries, seperti Canada, Italy, Germany, most of these are Western countries, by the way, in Europe, and even Islamic countries like Turkey and Indonesia, the name and sex can be amended. All official documents such as passport, university degrees, driving licenses, and so on, they do allow tukar. Ya, kalau seperti tadilah, kalau James Morris dalam pasport ataupun dalam IC dibenarkan untuk ditukar kepada Jane Morris sebagai contoh. Okay, tapi saya rasa di negara kita ada sukar sikit ya untuk membuat berbuat demikian. Right? I think it's not easy as that. This Indonesia ada a little bit more open. Right? Okay, so itu perkara yang berkaitan dengan sexual identity tadi. Okay, related to sexual identity juga adalah what is known as the sexual orientation. Sexual orientation, yaitu the preference, ya, the preference ataupun distinct preference for sexual partners of a particular gender when there are clear alternatives, ya, ada alternatives. So sexual orientation. So it is determined by the romantic, sexual, and emotional attracting felt by an individual towards members of the same sex ataupun jenis yang sama ataupun the opposite sex, ya, or all sexes. In other words, who do you love? Who are you attracted to? Or who do you care for? Right? Itu adalah berkaitan dengan sexual orientation. Okay? So based on this sexual orientation, ianya boleh di-classify into several group lah. Ya. The first one tadi adalah heterosexual, itu between sexes, and male-female tadi, and then homosexual, yaitu hubungan di antara gender yang sama, or bisexual, ataupun kadang-kadang you see this word queer. Queer ni is where you can't classify them according to heterosexual atau homosexual. They have so many other sort of preferences. Ataupun asexual. Asexual ini adalah there is no interest at all, ya, in sexual relationship, sama ada dengan perempuan ataupun dengan lelaki atau perempuan dan sebagainya. Ya, she just not interested in sexual activity or whatever. Ya, no interest at all. Ya, perempuan ke lelaki ke dia tak kisah. Okay, so I can see tadi dengan rakan dia in 1948, this is what they did. Yeah, they devised a 7-point rating scale to measure sexual orientation from exclusively heterosexual to exclusively homosexual. Yeah, and 5 other points on the scale which is a mixture of both. Jadi dia macam continuum lah, one end to the other, one being 100% heterosexual, and on the other end is the 100% homosexual. Tapi dia katakan dalam poin itu ada di antara homosexual dengan heterosexual itu ada some points along that continuum ataupun along that line, yeah, which may be a mixture of homo and hetero, yeah. Okay, so itu yang dibuat oleh mereka lah untuk mengukur more or less to determine sexual orientation. Jadi soalannya, whether or not sexual orientation itu is by nature ataupun by nurture. Nature itu semula jadi ataupun nurture itu is another word, the way you are brought up. Ya, contohnya something that you learn later in life, for example. Right? So Sigmund Freud, you may have heard of this name in your school days. Sigmund Freud believed that infants are bisexual, and it is the way they are brought up which makes them either heterosexual or homosexual. Jadi itu pahaman yang dibuat oleh seorang teoris lah. Ya. So Sigmund Freud found a great diversity of sexual practices among his patients. Jadi dia ni mungkin seorang psychologist ataupun doktor that he have seen so many of his patients, ya, yang mempunyai masalah ini, ya. So there are great diversity of sexual practices according to his findings, ya, berdasar kepada mereka yang berjumpa beliau ya mengenai masalah sexual problems tadi. Others say that it is genetic makeup, but there is no conclusive evidence to date for either nature or nurture. Jadi, so it is very much there's no concrete evidence to say that it is nature ataupun nurture, or could be both. Yeah, it could be both. The other thing is also what is interesting ataupun memang terdapat di setengah budaya ataupun negara ialah peranan religion. Ya, religion often creates homophobia, yaitu homophobia ataupun the fear of homosexuals. Jadi walaupun there is a tendency ataupun keinginan ya for towards homosexual, for example, tetapi oleh kerana religion tidak membenarkan, ya, tidak diterima, maka a lot of people who have that kind of tendency may be so scared of showing such orientation, ya, at least in public ataupun dikenali oleh orang lain. Okay, so let me recap lah more or less ya. The types of orientation tadi, sexual orientation, heterosexual tu kadang-kadang dikenali sebagai straight ataupun heterosexual, women who are sexually attracted to men, and men who are sexually attracted to women. Okay, the gay tadi or homosexual, this is where women are sexually attracted to women, and in the case of men, men who are sexually attracted to men. These are the gay ataupun apa nama tu lesbian lah, right? So lesbian women who are sexually attracted to women, jadi dia boleh group under homosexual actually. Bisexual, people who are sexually attracted to both men and women. Bi meaning two. Yeah. Asexual tadi adalah someone who is not experiencing and not interested or acting on sexual attraction at a given time. Sorry that saya pinjam slide ni. At a given time. Yeah. Then the other one is a pansexual. Pansexual. This is to describe someone who is attracted to people across the range of genders tadi. Jadi dia macam Pan Pacific, Pan Borneo Highway, macam bunyi itu. Anyway, this is the person who has a lot of preferences, in other words. Yeah, that's strange. Okay, so that's how people describe. Yeah, jadi dari segi biologinya, okay, biological sex tadi, I think I've mentioned that last week when we talk about, last week or before this lah, classification of our anatomy or genetics, itu you either born as a male, yeah, kan when you are born, you immediately being classified whether you're male child or male baby or female baby. But there is in between, known as the intersex, yeah, the intersex group ni, right? So the intersex groups are people who are neither male or female because they're born with, for example, genital organs yang tidak neither male or female, yeah, or could have both, yeah, characteristics, yeah, of both sexes tadi. Okay, but so that is so intersex is where biological sex is not always obvious, and people can be born with physical characteristics of both sexes. So these people are considered as intersex, right? So intersex conditions are not always visible at birth. Kadang-kadang tak nampak, tak jelas, ya, masa dilahirkan, and may not be noticed until puberty. Yaitu puberty is when the hormones produce apa nama, when you reach kind of a stage, yeah, can be considered as matured, yeah, puberty stage, yeah, when hormones produce unexpected changes. Jadi masa puberty itu perubahan tu berlaku mungkin ya, where for example the hormones produce more for female hormone rather than male hormones. So that is the time when you could see or you could notice the changes tadi. Ataupun during unrelated medical procedures. Jadi itu boleh berlaku. Okay. Alright, just to recap, assign sex at birth, a newborn with X and X chromosome, they are known as female. If the person is newborn is with X and Y chromosomes, and they are known as male, and they have male reproductive organs. The same also with the female, they have reproductive organ which is related to the female biologically. While as the intersex is a newborn having a combination of both male and female biological characteristics either through chromosomes or genitals. Jadi mungkin dari segi XY chromosome ataupun melalui genitals tadi that you can classify. So ada ciri-ciri perempuan dan lelaki at the same time. Okay, itu kena dengan biological sex, and then Anne Fasto Stelling, seorang profesor di Brown University di US, Brown University US, dan dia memang pakar dalam bidang gender, biology, and sexual identity development. Okay, dia membuat klasifikasi of sexes into 5 different groups. 5 sexes according to Anne Fasto Stelling. Okay, so the 5 sexes according to Anne Fasto, one is memang kita tahulah, one female, people born with ovaries, no testes. Number 2, people born with testes, no ovaries. Okay. And the rest are intersex. The 3 other group of sexes are intersex. But among the intersex tadi ada karakteristik tertentu di mana mereka tu di antara intersex itu pun terdapat perbezaan. So the third group, which is under the intersex group is known as the herms. Herms ataupun short for hermaphrodites. Short for hermaphrodites. These are people born with both an ovary and testis. Right? Kedua-duanya sekali. And the other group, the fourth sex is known as firms. Firms. These are people who are born with ovaries and some aspects of male genitalia, but no testis. So lebih kepada female, firms. But they do have male some aspect of male genitalia there. And the fifth one is the MERMS, MERMS. These are people who with testis and some aspect of female genitalia but no ovaries. So that's in other words, Anne Fasto Stelling, Professor Anne Fasto Stelling ini classify the intersex group tadi ataupun correct, the intersex group tadi kepada 3 subgroups, subgroup bergantung kepada ciri-ciri utama ataupun the combination of the male and female characteristic and which ones are more dominant in the person, the intersex person tadi. Okay, so di 5 according to Anne Fasto Stelling tadi. Okay, we move on to the next one. This is the sexual identity ataupun homosexuality. Sorry, the orientation, sexual orientation, yeah, is the term known as homosexuality tadi, yeah. So homosexuality is an example of how sexual behavior varies with different societies and different times. Jadi, so remember homosexual adalah orang yang mempunyai hubungan seks sesama lelaki ataupun perempuan, ya. And this has been recorded in history. Contohnya among the ancient Greeks, for example, the love of men for boys, yeah, the love of men for boys was idolized, yeah, memang disanjungi as the highest form of sexual love. The Greek soldiers, for example, in those time, yeah. And homosexuality exists in all cultures and has been documented since time immemorial. Jadi tak tahu bila, ya. It has been there for a long time. Berkenaan dengan homosexuality. Cuma yang apa yang berlaku adalah setengah culture itu tidak dapat menerima, ya, keadaan tersebut, ya. So biological ataupun genetical explanation, cultural explanation kepada isu homosexuality itulah. There are both biological as well cultural explanations. It is, for example, whether it is nature versus nurture, ya, ataupun nature seorang tu born, contohnya intersex tadi mungkin, ataupun somebody is born to love, for example, a woman being attracted to another woman, for example, or men being attracted to another man, for example. Is that because of nature or is that because of nurture? So nobody really knows why, actually why homosexuality developed, right? So whether it is biological or cultural explanation. But in some non-Western cultures, yeah, homosexual relations are accepted or even encouraged among certain groups, ya, diterima dan juga digalakkan, ya, among certain groups. Contohnya the Batik people of North Sumatra, right? For example, permit male homosexual relationship before marriage, ya, sebelum kawin dibenarkan hubungan lelaki sama lelaki, tetapi lepas kawin tak boleh, right? Tak boleh lagi meneruskan hubungan tersebut. So it has to be hubungannya dengan istri lah, ataupun correct, dengan istrinya instead of with another man. So it's only allowed to a certain level, yeah. Okay, so itu the non-Western culture. The idea of homosexual as someone with sexual preference, which is different from, homosexuality is the idea of itu tadi, is different from the majority of people, is a relatively new phenomenon. Jadi, of course, the majority people are heterosexual lah. Jadi, so it is something new to certain culture, certain people, yeah. So the word homosexuality was first coined in the 1860s, and the word lesbian came a bit later, yeah. Di mana lesbian itu is the homosexuality for female lah. Yeah? So homosexuality was a criminal activity in many Western countries. In other words, it's considered as a crime, yeah, until the 1960s. And also Christianity, religion tadi, Christianity has been important in shaping sexual attitudes. Yeah, so it was not acceptable, yeah, and even in some of the Western countries which now accept ataupun legalize homosexual relationship, ya, ataupun marriage between men and men or women and women. So it's also sodomy, ya, sama juga dengan case sodomy tadi, ya. It was denounced by the church as something which is unnatural act, and I think even in Islam too, sama, and was punishable by death in several European countries and in England in the old days, yeah. However, sodomy is not specifically a homosexual offense. It can be applied to heterosexual relations and between men and animals as well. Jadi the term sodomy itu is not just strictly apa nama it's not considered a homosexual offense, ya. Jadi, but it is an unnatural act, ya. So can be applied in heterosexual relations as well, yeah, and also between men and animals as well. Thus, homosexuality is not a sickness, bukan satu penyakit, ya, bukan satu jenis penyakit ataupun sickness, and it is not a result of mental illness. Jadi setengah orang tu memikirkan ia hanya satu jenis penyakit dan melibatkan mental seseorang individu tersebut, ya. So it's not that. So homosexuals are not restricted to any particular sector of occupation, seperti hairdressing, makeup artists, and so on. Yeah. So homosexuality is increasingly normalized and becoming an accepted part of everyday society. Contohnya, for example, the Australian ambassador to Sweden, sebagai contoh, is a homosexual, and he introduced his partner to the Queen. Yeah, right. So he introduced his partner, lelaki lah, to the Queen. That's his life partner. Right. Dan actually ramai, ya, di antara mereka yang very talented people, some are artists and all that. Many are gay, yeah. Even athletes too, yeah. So some of these people do have that kind of characteristic as well, right? So then again, we are talking about preference ataupun orientation, sexual orientation, yeah. Talking about homosexuality, preference for hubungan sejenis lah, we call it here in Malaysia. Okay. Some countries like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they now permit homosexual partners to register with the state to claim the rights of marriage. Di Amerika juga ada, tetapi bukan semua state, ya. In America, certain states they legalize homosexual partners ataupun marriage of the same sex, ya. So some part of Europe are doing that. And cities and local governments in Holland, France, and Belgium also have started to recognize homosexual relationship as well. So it's gaining acceptance in particularly in Western culture or Western countries. But in Eastern culture, it's still not acceptable. There's not been, the law has not recognized that, yeah. Again, homosexuality. If you know of anything, any of this, you share with me or share with the rest. Kalau tahulah siapa di negara kita kan, mungkin yang ada marriage between men. I don't think so. At least not officially registered lah. Lesbian kah ataupun gay marriage. Right? They may be living together, but they're not legally married. There's no paper ataupun certificate yang mengatakan mereka itu adalah life partner dan sebagainya. Right? It's because it is considered as unnatural and against religious teaching dan sebagainya. Okay, so in Hawaii, for example, homosexual marriage can be legally obtained by means of court. Ya, dengan apa nama tu, you go to the court, ya, and declare your marriage. So why do gay activists want homosexual marriage to be fully legalized? I mean, that would be the question. Nah, kenapa? Tapi the reason is because of the recognition by the state, by the state has some legal implications. Dia macam-macam, ya. Contohnya bringing up child or children. Contohnya mereka adopt children and so on, dan there's some legal implication as well, the benefits and so on that goes to the children, dan sebagainya. Jadi itu adalah sebab they want the marriage to be legalized, to be legalized. For example, it gives partners right to make life or death medical decisions. So siapa yang menentukan sama ada seorang itu boleh if he is on life support, for example, right? Rights of inheritance and right to share pensions and other economic benefits. Contohnya kalau one of the partners died, and who will inherit dia punya property dan sebagainya, ataupun pension. So itu sebabnya perlu ada recognition tadi, ataupun legal recognition of the marriage between the two persons. And also many people are opposed to homosexual and they see it as unnatural, but some gay activists argue that they do not simply choose to be homosexuals, bukan pilihan mereka untuk menjadi homosexual, bagi mereka, and it is part of nature. It's part of nature that they become as such. And all they want is to be seen as simply ordinary people who need economic and emotional security like everyone else in society. Jadi, given the choice, they would rather be normal person as well. But it is the way the body, the hormones, and all that they become as such, right? Bukan pilihan mereka. So but it is, according to them, is part of nature as such. Jadi so they want to be as normal as possible as well, like ordinary people who have similar needs, and so on. Okay, so that's talking about some bias against homosexual couple, for example. So a person who is homosexual. Okay. All right. So any question? It's 5:34, halfway through in our lecture for today. Kalau tidak ada, then I move on to another topic, related topic, which is, I'm sorry, but pick up.
So far, so good, Prof.
Testing.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
there's a little bit problem with all the wires in front of me, the connection and all that. Okay, you may not be able to see me because it seems that my camera is not working. I think that also has to do with the connection. Okay, sounds like something. Never mind. Can you still can hear me? That's all right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Something.
Prof.
There's the problem with technology. Sometimes it fails you. Okay, I can't open my video. Anyway, prostitution. What is meant by prostitution? I think everybody or all of you know what it is, right? But technically, the term can be defined as granting of sexual favors for monetary gain. Yeah, for monetary gains. That's a keyword. Yeah, sexual favors for monetary gain. It's different from a relationship between men and women. It has nothing to do with money or exchange of money or favor. Right. So the word prostitute began to come into common use sometime in the late 18th century. Right? And in the ancient world, those who gave sexual favors for economic reward were courtesans or concubines. That's what they're called. Yeah, people who are kept as mistresses, and also slaves. Yeah, slaves. So courtesans and concubines often have a high position in traditional societies. That's as the ancient world. Things are different now. Yeah. All right. So if you want to check, you can Google what that what means. For example, courtesans or concubines. Concubines is keeping apa nama itu mistress. Yeah. Courtesan actually also mean prostitute lah, ataupun especially people who are rich, yeah, rich ataupun upper class people who keep or visited women, and of course they, because they're rich, they give them money and so on and so forth. Right. So this is for upper class clients. Okay, so because they have so much money, so they spend those extra funds into visiting the courtesans. But this is actually similar to what is modern day called prostitutes. Yeah. Sorry, what is that? Okay, so one key aspect of modern prostitution is that women and their clients are generally unknown to one another. Okay, so normally the clients and the women who they, not just women, they also male prostitute as well. Yeah, they don't know each other. So yeah, so prostitution is also directly connected to the breakup of small-scale communities and the development of large impersonal urban areas and the commercialization of social relationship. Jadi itu mengapa ataupun apa yang berlaku, ya, why it happened and so on. Jadi contohnya dalam small traditional communities, sexual relations were controlled by their very visibility. Jadi semua orang akan tahu, ya, apa yang dilakukan oleh seseorang tersebut. Tetapi in the newly developed urban areas, more anonymous and social connections were easily established. So without people noticing, without people knowing where you go, what you do. Itu. Tapi dalam community yang kecil, everything that you do will be known by the people in the small community. Okay, so you can blame it on urbanization ataupun perbandaran dan sebagainya. Right, so that's what prostitution is about. Yeah, so di setengah negara ianya legalize, ya, dibenarkan, tapi di kebanyakan negara prostitution is illegal, as you can see from this map up here. Yeah, in some countries they are legalized but also regulated. Ya, ada undang-undang, ya, yang berkaitan. Dan di setengah negara prostitution is legal but no regulation, yeah, not regulated. Okay, so most prostitutes do come from poor social backgrounds, okay, as they did in the past lah. So Paul Goldstein, for example, has classified the types of prostitution in terms of occupational commitment. In other words, how frequently they sell sex, or whether it is temporary or continually and occupational in nature or context. Yeah, that is their work environment. Okay, jadi dia classify seperti itu. Jadi, maksudnya ada beberapa jenis, ya, prostitution ini. Ya. For example, a street worker solicits business on the street. Dapat pelanggan lah di jalan raya, on the street. A call girl, on the other hand, solicits clients over the phone. Or house prostitute who works in a private club or brothel. Jadi dia modus operandi itu berbeza, in other words. Yeah. A massage parlor prostitute, on the other hand, provides sexual services in a place where they are supposed to only offer massage and health facilities. Unfortunately, they also offer the sexual services as well, yeah, which is not included or not supposed to be part of the business. Some women also engage in barter meaning barter trade lah, but payment of goods and services in the form of sexual services rather than money. So offer sexual favor in exchange for goods, ya. Okay, sebagai contoh lah, beli barang dan sebagainya, ya, including cars or whatever, right? Okay, so another aspect of prostitution is that it also involves children. Now, this is the worst thing lah, where it involves children. And studies in the West have shown that child prostitutes are usually children who have run away from home and have no income and turn to prostitution for a livelihood. Nah, itu ya, berlaku lah, tak ada pekerjaan, ya, poor family. And child prostitution is also part of the sex tourism industry, for example, in Thailand and the Philippines, right? So for example, they have package tours, yeah, where they bring men to these countries from Europe, United States, and also Japan. So they organize a tour package, yeah, to promote the sex tourism industry in that country. And most of these children who are involved in prostitution. And in Asia, sex tourism has its origin in the provision of prostitute for the American troops, yeah, the American army during the Korean and Vietnam wars. That's how it started, yeah, with the sex tourism in Korea and Vietnam. Because the troops, yeah, At that time there were men, very few women if there were any, ya, dalam tentera tersebut. So that's how it started, ya. And the rest and recreation centers also were built in Thailand, as well as the Philippines and Vietnam, Korea, and Taiwan. Yeah, also we serve the services tadi lah, prostitution. Yeah, so in other words, it was legalized in those countries. Some still remain to cater to tourists and military station in the region. Masih lagi, ya, dikekalkan untuk to cater for the needs of the tourists as well and military war station, yeah, foreign military war station in the region as well. Okay, so the question is, why does prostitution exist? Despite of the attempts of government trying to eliminate it, yeah, trying to eliminate it, right? So, because it is always women, almost always women selling sexual favors to men, although there are some instances of the reverse as well. In other words, male prostitute, and the clients are women, for example. Okay. So the question, why does prostitution exist despite the attempt of the government to eliminate it? Because there is this, I don't know, maybe there is a demand for it, and also perhaps in certain countries there's no strict laws to prevent it from happening. Yeah, maybe they just disallow it or not allow it for moral reasons, but not consider that as a crime, maybe. Yeah. So boys or men also can also become prostitute themselves to other men as well. Jadi men ni case homosexual ni, ya. In that case, ya, it is between men or boys as prostitute to other men. So it is not because men have greater sexual needs, since studies have shown that women have also intense sexual needs, but there are not many male prostitutes. Ya, jadi dibandingkan dengan female prostitute, there are few male prostitutes to serve the needs of these active women, yeah, sexually active women, for example. That's the example of male street male substitute. So the problem is that men treated women as objects to be used for sexual purposes, and men are in a more powerful position in society. So that explains why prostitution exists, despite the attempts by government to eliminate it. Yeah? Women are more portrayed in the media also as objects. Ya, contohnya dalam advertisement, beer advertisement, the Golden Girls in Airlines, Malaysian Airlines, SIA termasuk, ya. Advertisement for mattresses, sports cars, macam-macam lagi. So they use women dalam promosi untuk mempromosikan the services ataupun the goods tadi, ya. Okay, so these are just examples that I share with you. So these sexualized images perpetuate the notion that women's bodies are for consumption. So why? Another reason why prostitution exists. Right? So with globalization and transmigration of labor, yeah, di mana labor migration occurs, yeah, prostitutes also cater to men who are away from home and who desire sexual encounters without commitment, without being getting married to the person whom he has sexual relationship, for example. Right? So in the end, prostitution is about inequalities of power between men and women. So inequalities of power between men and women is one of the explanation, one of the reasons. Yeah, the inequality study. Yeah, that explain why prostitution exists. Okay, jadi that's for prostitution. We take a break for 5 minutes. Yeah, jangan ke 5 minit, and then I will continue with the. Oh, maybe I don't know. Should we continue and then yeah, I think you should take a break. 5 minutes, boleh ya?
Boleh.
Alright,
Prof.
Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
I need to get up from my chair.
Same, Prof.
Just take a walk. Same with you also. Yeah. Okay, so we go to the once again the theory of gender development to explain the sexual identity and also the sexual behavior. Yeah. So according to Sigmund Freud, the presence or absence of the penis is a symbol of masculinity and femininity. Yeah. So for example, if you have a penis, you are equivalent to saying that you are a boy. If you don't have one, it's equivalent to that you are a girl, according to Freud. So at around the age of 4 or 5 years old, it says this is the in terms of child development, says that a boy feels threatened by the discipline of the father, and accepts the father as superior being. Jadi belajar bahawa bapa adalah seorang superior being, superior person. Yeah. So in this way, the boy identifies the father and becomes aware of his male identity. Okay, itu kata Freud lah. And girls, on the other hand, according to his theory, girls do not possess the visible organ that distinguishes boys, which is the penis just now lah. So the mother is also devalued. Di samping itu, ya, mother is also devalued in the little girl's eye, ya, dari pandangan anak perempuan tadi, because she is also seen to lack that particular organ as well, yeah, that penis. So when the girl identifies with the mother, she takes over the submissive attitude, yeah, involved in the recognition of being second best compared to boy, yeah, second best. Okay, so itu yang dikatakan oleh Sigmund Freud. Jadi beliau melihat dari segi pembesaran ataupun the development of the person, ya. Yeah. So sebagai contoh tadi, these are the stages according to him, the psychosexual stages of development. The birth, the first stage is known as the oral stage, which is the birth from birth until 2 years old. This is where the pleasure from oral stimulation, such as tasting and sucking, yeah, involved. So the problems here could be fixed, yeah, dependency or aggression. So problems with drinking, smoking, eating, nail biting, and so on. Yeah. Anyway, then there is the anal stage, which is from 15 months to 3 years old. The primary focus is on controlling bladder, bowel, cara nak mengatur diri lah, nak pergi tandas sebagainya. The third stage is the phallic stage, and this is where the apa nama tadi yang dikatakan oleh Freud tadi yang ada kaitan dengan the sexual development tadi lah, yeah. So primary focus is on genitals, the difference between male and female. So child becomes rival for the affection of the opposite sex parent, yeah, and child begins to identify with the same sex parent. And this is where it is, yeah. So Freud believed that the girls continued to possess feelings of envy or inferiority, ataupun in his term called penis envy. Dia tidak ada organ seperti apa nama his brother who has that organ tadi lah. Okay, so that's more or less what is relevant to his theory tadi, ya, berkenaan dengan sexual development tadi. Yeah. Okay, but as you can see already, there are some weaknesses ataupun kelemahan pada teori tersebut, ya. So some major criticisms of Freud's theory, among them are: one, he seems to identify gender identity too closely with genital awareness. Hanya dikaitkan dengan genital tadi, ya, the presence or the absence of the penis, ya. But other more subtle factors are also involved. Jadi banyak benda lain lah yang boleh yang berkaitan, which is known as the maybe in a way is called the nurturing factor, ya, bukan nature tadi. So the theory seems to depend on the notion that penis is superior to the vagina, and itu yang pemahaman tadi. Why shouldn't? So the question is, why shouldn't the female genitals be considered superior to those of the male? On the other hand, so that is one other criticism. Yeah, and he also treated the father as a primary disciplinarian, ya, yang who discipline the children and so on. But in many societies or many cultures, the mother also plays the most significant part as a disciplinarian person lah, ya, sebagai yang melakukan disiplin terhadap kanak-kanak tadi. Okay, so that is another problem with his theory tadi. Seterusnya, Freud also thinks that gender learning is concentrated at the age of 4 and 5. Pada umur 4-5 tahun saja, sangat terhad, ya. So most writers who criticize his theory said that gender learning begins much earlier than that. Yeah, in fact, during infancy, umur belum sampai setahun contohnya. That is the time when they also learn, yeah, as well. That they are boy or girls lah, in other words. Okay, bukan pada umur 4 hingga 5 tahun. Okay, so jadi itu some of the criticism of Freud's punya theory. Okay. The other person who is a sociologist, ya, bukan tadi adalah merupakan seorang psikologis, ya. Ini pula adalah seorang ahli sosiologi, ya. Came out with the theory of gender development as well. So Chodorow, Nancy Chodorow, she stresses the importance of the mother. Kalau tadi lihat kepada Sigmund Freud tadi, dia lebih mementingkan kepada bapa tadi, ya. So the importance of mother rather than the father is in the case of Freud tadi lah. So both girls and boys are emotionally involved with the mother, bukan anak perempuan saja, ya. Both the mother from an early age, since she is the most dominant influence in their families. I think there's some truth to this, ya. Ada especially when the mother is the one who look after the children, yeah, from birth. So, yeah. So at some stage, the child becomes more independent by breaking away from the mother in order to achieve a separate identity. Right? Jadi pada tahap tertentu, anak-anak tadi akan menjadi independent or break away from the mother, ya. To achieve separate identity. However, boys and girls break away from the mother in different ways. Ada cara-cara tersendiri di antara lelaki dengan perempuan, ya. Girls attach to their mother longer, ya, lebih lama, and imitate what she does. Ya. So she stays more with the mother. And become more attached and imitate what she does. Apa yang dia buat, dia ikut. Yeah? So thus the identity of an adult woman is more continuous with other people. Right? So boys, on the other hand, gain a sense of self by rejecting of their original closeness with the mother. Yeah? Rejection of the original closeness. The boys learn not to be mommy's boys or sissies, They unconsciously feel that their identity will be threatened if they become too involved in close emotional relationship with others. Jadi itu dikatakan oleh Nancy Chudrow tadi ya. Alright, so therefore men are unskilled, less skill lah, kurang kemahiran in relating closely to others, right? Because of that, according to Nancy Chudrow, they develop analytical ways of looking at the world, emphasizing achievement, but are repressed in the ability to understand their own emotions and those of others. Not know whether that's true or not. So dibandingkan dengan anak perempuan lebih emosional, anak lelaki itu lebih agak suka sikit ya, and the ability to be close to other people. So women, on the other hand, feel that the absence of close relationship with another person threatens their self-esteem, and therefore they find themselves mainly in terms of their relationship. Okay, so itu dikatakan oleh Chudrow. Tapi then again, Chudrow's punya theory pun also has some criticism. Yeah. For example, it has been criticized because women nowadays are independent, yeah, unlike women of the past perhaps, yeah, and do not often identify themselves primarily via relationship with others. Ya, itu yang dikatakan tadi lah oleh Chudrow. Women identify themselves through their relationship with others, but not necessarily in modern day. Nah, itu some of the critics. The second criticism is that she based, ataupun theory was based on conjugal ataupun conjugal parenting ataupun parenting whereby couples are married lah, ya. Tapi in some societies now, in other cultures, social parenting by many adults takes the place of conjugal parenting. Jadi bukan suami isteri, tetapi orang lain yang menjaga anak-anak tersebut. Ya, it can be, for example, babysitter, or it can be in the case of homosexual marriage, men and men looking after the adopted children and so on. Ya, jadi that's another criticism of the Chudrow theory. Okay, right. Last but not least, I think I'll go into this next one before we stop. Yeah, the relationship between sex, gender across culture. Jadi banyak saya telah perkatakan tadi bahawa budaya juga mempunyai pengaruh, ya, ataupun mempengaruhi gender identity as well as sexual behaviors and so on. Yeah, so differences in sex roles exist universally. Ya, contohnya Georgas dengan rakan-rakannya, Georgas, ya, made a study in 27 countries. Yeah, based on the study, they found that women did most of the household work, or housework. Yeah, and fathers were another finding is that fathers were more concerned with finances, keuangan, specific issues. Sorry, perkataan ataupun typo error. Okay, specific issues, childcare in all countries. Okay, tapi mothers also, according to their finding, mothers were concerned with childcare only in less affluent countries. Jadi di negara yang kurang maju lah, in other words, this is where the mother take care of the children. Tapi di negara yang maju, it is the seems to be the concern of the father rather than the mother. Okay, so cultures therefore differ in nature and intensity of differentiation between the sexes, right? So there are differences dari segi gender roles and also ideology, termasuk juga gender stereotypes. Sorry, my apologies. Let me correct that. Ini saya type sebentar tadi, so a lot of mistake that I was typing. Gender stripes, ya, di antara different in different societies or different cultures, ya. So that also differentiation. Sorry. Okay, so William, first of all, looking at gender stereotypes, and Bess did a study, for example, in 1992, involving 30 countries. Kajian mereka mendapati bahawa high pan-cultural agreement on the adjectives used to describe males and female. In other words, the description of male and female are quite similar, right? In the 30 countries that they studied. For example, in all countries, adjectives associated with the men who rated as being stronger and more active. Those adjectives berkaitan dengan, in other words, how they characterize men. Yeah? Men stronger and more active. And participants from this country study, participants from Japan and also South African, for example, they rated male characteristic as more favorable, ciri-ciri lelaki lah, compared to Italy and Peru. People in Italy and Peru rated female characteristics as more favorable. Okay, and other studies, following studies by William and colleagues, follow-up studies. Sorry, typo error. Follow-up studies. I forgot that word, follow. Okay, follow-up studies. Okay, by William and colleagues also reveal that gender stereotypes around the world to be kind of stable, agak stable. So men are viewed as active. That's the stereotyping, berkaitan dengan gender tadi. Men active, strong, critical, conscientious, extroverted, more open, right? Dibandingkan dengan women, stereotyping berkaitan dengan women, they are viewed as passive, weak, nurturing, caring lah, nurturing tadi, atau adaptive, agreeable, agreeable, setuju lah, and neurotic, itu berkaitan dengan perempuan. Other studies also support Williams and Bess studies. Jadi kajian-kajian seterusnya juga menyokong dapatan kajian daripada yang sama seperti yang diperolehi oleh William dengan rakannya. Okay, dan the other studies also look at how the stereotypes develop. Anyway, so those are building on William and colleagues study tadi. Mereka melihat mengapa ataupun bagaimana stereotype tersebut terjadi ataupun boleh berlaku sedemikian. Alright, itu berkenaan dengan stereotyping tadi. In terms of gender role ideology, culture also plays an important role. It has to do with judgments about what males and females ought to be like or ought to do. Itu dinamakan gender role ideology. Ideology berkenaan dengan peranan gender tadi. So what are males or female supposed to be, or ought to be like, or should do or must do. Again, Williams and Bess, in their study in 1990, involving 14 countries, they found out that some countries, they are highly egalitarian, to equal rights between, my apologies again, typing error nih, banyak typing error. Okay. Egalitarian society where they have equal rights between men and women, and these are found in Netherlands, Germany, and Finland. Finland pun salah spelling. Okay, and then another group who studied the same thing was Gibbons and colleagues. And his colleague in 1990 studied the adolescents, among adolescents, and found out that adolescents from wealthier and more individualistic countries were less traditional. Jadi mereka yang apa nama ni daripada negara yang agak kaya lah, wealthier and more individualistic societies, they were less traditional, in terms of their gender role. In other words, doesn't have to be women mama masak ataupun lelaki untuk what used to be breadwinner sebagainya. And now things are quite different, in more of these developed societies. So gender ideologies may be changing as well as society change. Jadi itu rumusan lah yang didapati bahawa gender ideology itu boleh berubah as society change from traditional society to a more advanced society. Di samping itu, religion also may play a role in keeping up with traditional gender roles. Jadi I think it's quite true dan masih lagi banyak berlaku di negara yang with certain religion lah yang mementingkan ataupun yang mengatakan bahawa kaum wanita seharusnya menjalankan peranan seperti terdahulu, keep the old traditions, in terms of gender roles. Tapi in modern societies, in some countries, religion do not really. I mean, they're more open, or certain religion they're more open in terms of changes in gender roles study. Okay. So at the same time, the creation myth from many cultures also put emphasis on one gender over another. For example, the Judeo-Christian mythology, for example, has a male term God and blames Eve for sin sebagai contoh, sebagai contoh seperti dalam gambar ini. So the blame the sin tadi terhadap Eve, dan bukan Adam, Eve and Adam in this case. On the other hand, the Hopi creation myth also has both a male and female aspect, but emphasizes the female's creative powers, which is reflected in their matrilineal society. Itu di kalangan orang Hopi, myth ataupun mitos mereka. In Bangladesh, on the other hand, men are associated with the right side and women with the left side. So there is a dichotomy that also more or less denotes purity pollution kind of relationship, purity ataupun kebersihan dengan pollution, good and bad, and authority and submission. So so men on right side, women on the left side. So men ataupun women are on the submissive, submissive compared to the men. Itu dari segi ideology across culture. Jadi begitu juga dengan kajian-kajian yang dilakukan kaitan dengan gender ni, cross cultural research on gender. Contohnya in terms of culture stereotypes, seperti katakan awal tadi, Williams and Base juga 1982 use adjective tadi yang seperti yang dibuat awal tadi, adjective checklist they call it, where subjects characterize adjectives are as either male or female characteristics, menggunakan perkataan-perkataan tertentu, So men generally are viewed as active, strong, critical, and adult-like, while with needs such as dominance, need for autonomy, aggression, exhibition, achievement, and endurance. While women mengikut kajian tadi, based on the checklist, women are viewed as passive, weak, nurturing, adaptive, with needs such as investment, difference, affiliation, and heterosexuality. Right? So these researchers are suggesting that their findings support a psychological universal when it comes to gender stereotypes. Jadi they more or less suggested that this is the universal things that happen throughout the world with regard to gender stereotypes. Contohnya perempuan lemah, perempuan pasif dan sebagainya, ataupun lelaki aktif, strong, critical dan sebagainya. So based on the finding, there seems to suggest that this is kind of psychological universal, psychological universal. In other words, psychologically, we tend to think the same, with regard to the gender stereotyping berkenaan dengan gender tadi. Okay, later studies, however, found some considerable gender-related cultural differences. Ada perubahan, ada pun perbezaan, berkenaan dengan ataupun berdasar pada kajian seterusnya. So the findings suggest that gender stereotype differentiation tended to be higher in countries that were conservative and also hierarchical, with di mana the lower levels, my apologies again, so many typing errors. Right, so those with low levels of socio-economic development and also Christian affiliation and proportion of women attending university, terdapat some kind of differentiation between those who are of higher status dengan lower level status, both in terms of socio-economic development, whether going to church or not, and so on, ataupun whether attending college or not. Dan terdapat perbezaan di antara kumpulan tersebut tentang gender stereotype tadi. Another study, or Hofstede's study, also on masculinity and femininity. Okay, my God, a lot of typing error. Okay, itu the degree to which culture will foster or encourage or maintain differences between males and females. Jadi kajian daripada Hofstede study ini menunjukkan bahawa negara seperti Japan, Australia, Venezuela, and Italy, they are highly masculine. In other words, they foster or encourage masculinity, males. And Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden, they are low in terms of masculinity. So terdapat perbezaan di antara negara-negara tersebut. So masculine and feminine cultures differ in sexuality as well as attitudes toward religions and also adherence to religious belief about men and women. Jadi terdapat perbezaan mengikut society, different countries or different cultures in terms of the gender ideology, in terms of gender identity dan sebagainya. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's it. So to conclude, we can put it in such a way that there are a few areas of sociology which has developed as significantly or emerged as so central to the discipline, as a whole, as the study of gender relations. Okay, so depends on the country lah. Kalau setengah country itu they focus more on certain aspect, But to be honest, UNIMAS started with this course on gender, sex, gender, quite recently, So in our case, in the Faculty of Social Sciences, we are devoted to the issue of gender as well. In the other courses also, we are mindful of the issue, of gender in our content and our teaching as well. So, so this is more or less a reflection of changing times. Ada perubahan, We establish differences between male and female identities, as well as typical modes of behavior are increasingly being challenged as well. So challenging traditional beliefs, traditional ideologies, and so on. So question is, could we imagine a society where gender differences disappeared so that we are androgynous? Androgynous di sini maksud there is gender, we have the same gender characteristic. Women are strong, so are men. Men are active, so are women, and so on and so forth. Benda sama. So no major differences between male and female, or men and women. And also equally important is sexuality has also emerged as an enormously complex area of human behavior, which also have undergone changes, fundamental changes in modern societies. Jadi nampaknya ada perubahan. Sekurang-kurangnya di negara yang sudah maju and some Western countries, they have accepted the changes. And also, I think even in Eastern countries too, things are also happening as well, Tapi tak samalah dari segi the rate of change and all that. Penerimaan oleh masyarakat itu masih berbeza, mengikut budaya. So our attitude towards sex and our sexual behavior reflect the wider social transformation in the society. So that's more or less to sum up what we have seen for the in the last 2 hours plus or so. All right. So these are additional notes, just to add a bit on this. In some cultures, also gender ideologies can physically and manifest or cause harm as well. Contohnya gender bias in children and infanticide. For example, preference found in some societies for one gender, sometimes to the point of killing infants and small children. Pernah berlaku lah, preference for boy, for example, or preference for girl for that matter, which may cause harm, and most often preference for sons rather than daughters. Itu dululah contohnya female infanticide. One time when they have, particularly when they have this one-child policy in China. So if they were to have one child, they would rather have a boy rather than a girl. Sebab ada cultural reason behind it lah. Mengapa in Chinese culture boys are preferred than girl. Dan di India juga. The other berkaitan dengan gender ideology ini adalah dari segi nutritional deprivation, where it forms is this a form of child abuse involving withholding food, ya, tidak memberi makanan atau mengurangkan makanan, and it can retard learning, it can slow down learning, as well as physical development or social adjustment as well. Right? So ada berlaku lah. This is just to show this figure here on the right, some of the figures on the infant, according to demographers, millions of women who should have been born in Asia have been victims of female-selected abortion or female infanticide. Ya, disebabkan oleh polisi tersebut in terms of preference for child tadi. Okay, so I'm sorry about this. And then the other aspect of gender ideology across culture is the honor killings. Honor killing ini is satu euphemism ataupun euphemisme which refer to the practice found in various Middle Eastern countries, whereby women are put to death at the hands of their own family members because they are thought to have dishonored the family. Ini pun sampai hari ini pun ada juga. Saya pernah terbaca lah, the family disown ataupun put to death, their own family members, especially women, who disobey. And it's happening in still happening in the latest that I read was happening in Afghanistan. So as well. The other aspect, other examples, the dowry death. Dowry death ini is the killing of wife by her in-laws if the wife's parent fail to pay additional dowry. Dowry ini adalah pembayaran lah untuk the wife parents pay to the family of the husband. Right? So kalau tak terbayar, the wife will be killed by the in-laws. And this often occurs in rural India, Pakistan, and also some parts of Bangladesh as well. All right, so that's the issue here lah. And then the rest what I have here, maybe probably discuss that next time, but these are supposed to be additional notes regarding some of these issues that we have discussed earlier lah. So the issue of gender tadi, whether males dominant ataupun characteristics tadi are more dominant over females in all societies. Itu isu culture tadi lah. How similar gender roles throughout the world, itu cultural aspect tadi, and so on, Jadi these are extra notes which you can read together with the notes. Kalau ada soalan nanti, we'll go through this next week, Okay, banyak juga sini yang boleh saya highlight nantilah, some of this issue on cultural construction of gender which we have seen earlier on. And then, for example, in the American society, for example, personal traits yang mengatakan bahwa females are more caring, emotional, family-oriented, Then the males are rational, physically strong, selfish, non-emotional, individualistic, and that's how people, the culture, digunakan ataupun melihat kepada ideologi tadi. In terms of careers pun sama, kita dah lihat ni dulu. Women are teachers, waitress, nurses, and so on, while as men, for example, become more associated with a certain profession or careers, doctor, professor, CEO, and so on and so forth. Okay, so ini kita telah lihat minggu lepas berkenaan dengan kajian yang dibuat oleh Margaret Mead, sociologist atau anthropologist, berkenaan dengan 3 kelompok ni ataupun this minority groups, or tribes di New Guinea, and how different culture ataupun culture berbeza di antara tiga kumpulan tersebut berkenaan dengan wanita, status of women in the group and so on, and their roles and so on. Okay, jadi yeah, we have seen this one also, but we are looking more at the different cultures and so on. Jadi saya nak berhenti di sini. I will continue next week with this, just to go over this briefly with you again on this topic. Ada benda yang saya telah bincangkan, ada benda yang belum. So I have revised my notes. Some are old notes, some are new one that I have added in. And I think I have several set of notes actually in the past, but I try to come out with more relevant and also comprehensive notes to share with you. Okay, any question with regard to this lecture today? Banyak lagi sebenarnya slide ini sampai berapa, which you can see, ya. Benda macam ni, ideologi ini, we have seen that, but we, boleh dilihat dari perspektif yang berlainan. Okay, so itu saja untuk hari ini. So thank you very much for listening to the lecture for today. Ada apa-apa yang nak di-highlight? Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Can you open the QR code again?
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
But anything on the topics we discussed today?
No, sir.
Kalau ada pun
sir.
you can even use the other channel lah, media untuk kita menyampaikan questions and whatnot. Okay, let me stop this sharing. Try to go back to. Okay, this is one. All right, so this is the QR code again, ya. Lagi yang belum.
Sir, I got a question.
Yeah, sure. Who's that? Who's that?
Sylvester.
Yeah, Sylvester. Yeah.
Yes. Just now you said like the gender difference and equality kan, it depends on the macam kemajuan of a certain country lah. So, for example, UAE is very like developed. It's a developed country, but then the gender rights are not equal. Okay. Why is that?
That's because of probably because of religion. One thing, and yeah, probably because of religion and the culture itself lah. So maybe United Arab Emirates, the reason why they are a rich country, right? But in terms of social development, I think they're still rated as maybe low in terms of respect for gender, yeah, differences and so on. It's something to do with culture, with religion. For example, in Saudi Arabia, for the past, in the past, women were not allowed to drive. It's only in recent years that they were given, they were allowed to drive a car, for example. Yeah, so it's all about culture of the society. So it has nothing to do with modernization. Some Western countries also, they do have some religious group. Yeah, they also, they have this differentiation in terms of their treatment of in terms of gender roles as well, even in America. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Professor.
You probably can read more. You just try to Google what the reasons behind that. But my belief is that it is culturally related. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so kalau tak ada soalan lagi, Itu saja untuk hari ini. Then I'll see you again next week. Right, so we stop here, yeah.
Right, Prof.
Okay, Prof.
Okay.
Thank
Alright.
you.
Prof.
Thank you,
Prof.
Prof.
Thank you.